Hi friends, how are you? This is Miss Veronica. Those of you I have taught before, welcome back. I miss you. For those of you who are new to one of my classes, what we do is we do a lot of nutrition. We talk about healthy foods. We talk about where our foods come from, some environmental science. All of our food comes from the ground in one way or another. And we also make some healthy treats together, sometimes meals or snacks. And today we're going to make some berry pancakes. Okay, I'm really excited about this one. It's one of my favorite recipes. But before we jump in, let's go over the recipe and why we're adding certain things to our pancakes. These might look a little bit different from the ones that maybe you might make with your adults at home or that you've had in a diner or a restaurant. These are going to be a little bit healthier, but they're also going to be extremely tasty. So as always, we have our recipe ready to go. We need to read our recipe before we do anything. This recipe is available on our website. There will be a link so you can either stop this video and go take a look at it now, or you can grab it later, print it out, whatever you want to do. So this is our recipe for our berry pancakes. And we're going to talk a lot about substitutions, about different things you might be able to add or take away from your recipe, considering that we know that it's a little bit difficult right now to get all of the ingredients that we might want to use. So any kind of berry will do for our berry pancakes, but today we are going to be using blueberries. They are a powerhouse berry, and I'm going to tell you why in just a second. So first, let's go over our ingredients list, okay? We're going to use a half of a cup of milk. I'm going to be using whole milk, okay? I do prefer, if we're going to use dairy, that we use whole or full fat versions. A lot of people, that might surprise, but I feel like it has a lot more nutrition and vitamins in it that haven't been taken out when it is made 2% or skim. Okay, we are also going to do 2 tablespoons, and on here it says of a neutral oil. That just means an oil that doesn't have a lot of flavor, so we won't actually taste it in our pancakes. We're going to use some avocado oil today. You can also use olive oil, you can use canola oil, even coconut oil, but it will have a little coconutty taste, which might be really nice actually. We are also going to use an egg. Okay, we have our cute little organic brown egg right here. And we're gonna kind of talk about how to best crack an egg in a little bit. I skipped one. We're also going to use 3 tablespoons of honey, okay? Anybody who has made our energy seed balls with me knows how much I love honey and why it is better for us than regular sugar. I'll talk about that in a second as well. We are also going to use some salt, some baking powder. Okay, we're going to use some flour, which we'll talk about in a second as well, and also some yogurt. Okay, that's kind of the big surprise in these pancakes, is that we're going to be using yogurt as some of the fat in our pancakes. Okay, so then we're also going to use 1/4 of a cup of our berries. Okay, I may use more, we'll see. Okay, so let's discuss these ingredients real quick and why we're using some of them. On the recipe, when you look at it, it calls for a cup of whole wheat flour. Obviously, I do not have whole wheat flour today. I have unbleached all-purpose flour. This is kind of the most common flour. Most people will have it in their houses. Whole wheat is better if you can get it. Right now, obviously, it's a little bit harder to get certain things, and we're only shopping when we really need to, because we're staying at home. And whole wheat is usually better because it holds on to all the nice vitamins and fiber that are in the grains of the wheat, okay? Whenever we have white flour, a lot of that's been processed away. So it's not that it's so much unhealthy for you, it's more that it just doesn't have much in it that is healthy for you, okay? This is a little bit better because it says it is unbleached. There are some flours that are, they do kind of use bleaching agents and things like that to make it really white and pure looking. It's just for how it looks. We don't need all that. So you can use whatever flour you have in the house, a gluten flour, so all-purpose flour, a whole wheat flour, or if you're gluten-free and you have a gluten-free flour mixture, you can use that too, okay? So that's the flour that we're going to use today. Again, sometimes we just need to do substitutions. Sometimes it can't be ideal what we put into our food, but we do our best to make it as healthy and tasty as possible. Okay, so let's talk about our yogurt. Same kind of thing, okay? So this yogurt is a non-fat Greek yogurt. Again, I prefer full-fat versions. It's like whole milk type of things when I am using dairy products, okay? But we have non-fat. That's what we were able to get. It's fine, no worries. Okay, we're using yogurt as some of the fat that is in our food, okay, because we do kind of need that when you're making pancakes. Okay, we also are using it for, it's kind of a little bit of flavor. It is unsweetened. There's no sugar, there's no flavors in it. It's just a plain yogurt, okay? That kind of keeps our sugar content down because we know we don't want a ton of sugar in our food, right? And the other reason that we're using it is yogurt is very good for your belly, okay? It has something in it called probiotics, super sciencey word. I don't know if you've heard it before, but basically what it means is you have these good little bacteria in your belly. There's a whole ecosystem down in here, and it's good. You need it. It's called good bacteria, okay? And you need it. It's important in order for your whole system to work well. And yogurt and other things that have probiotics in them are going to be healthy for that good gut bacteria that you need. And that's another reason why we're using our yogurt today, okay? And honey, again, if you've worked with me with honey before, you know why I like it, okay? It is antibacterial. Okay, so it is helpful for keeping you well for your immune system. If you have a cough or a sore throat, it's very soothing to the throat. Okay, and it is also a lot more natural than white sugars. Okay, it raises our blood sugar level a little bit different than white sugar does. So we're not using any white sugar, any powdery sugar today, or granulated sugar. We're going to use this honey instead. Okay, take it from the bees. It's good stuff. Okay, and the last thing we're going to talk about before we get started are the blueberries. The blueberries are going to steal the show here, okay? Again, it's all about what you can get. Any berry will do. Berries are so good for you guys, and they're really tasty. They're tasty whether they're raw and you're just eating them as a snack, or if we're cooking or baking them into something. Very good. But blueberries in particular, these little tiny blue guys, are a powerhouse of nutrients. They're so good for you, okay? They can protect against heart disease, diabetes, cancer prevention. They're good for your skin. They're good for your bones. So berries have what is called antioxidants in them, and basically what that means is that if you have some things in your body that are not quite good for you, okay, things that can cause diseases in your body, food with antioxidants can kind of fight those bad things in your body to help to keep you from getting sick, okay? And so this is one of the reasons why blueberries are so very good for us, okay? So we're going to make our pancake batter now that we've kind of gone over what we're doing, all right? So we have our recipe here. We're going to follow it. When you are making something that has wet ingredients and dry ingredients, you're going to mix them in separate bowls, the wet and the dry, and then you mix them together, okay? And that is going to help it just to mix correctly. Nothing's going to separate or not be where it's supposed to be, okay? So first we're going to start with our wet ingredients. So I'm going to start with my ½ of a cup of milk, okay? So I have my ½ of a cup measurement here. You can use a measuring cup or one of these. This is technically for dry measures, but it works, it's fine. Okay, we're using what we have. So I have this beautiful big bowl here, and I'm going to go ahead and pour ½ a cup of my milk, okay? And you can have an adult help you to measure and make sure that you have the right measuring tools, okay? So the next thing on our list is going to be 2 tablespoons of the neutral oil. Now, if you read, because we have to make sure that we read correctly, it says 1 will be for the batter and 1 will be for the pan. So in our batter, we only actually need 1 tablespoon of our oil. So I'm gonna grab my tablespoon. I hope you all remember to wash your hands before we started this. Remember, that is very, very important. I scrubbed mine really well for 20 seconds. Okay, I filled my tablespoon all the way to the top. I'm gonna drop that right in. It looks so cool. It starts to separate from the milk because they don't wanna be friends. We're gonna make them be friends. It's gonna be fun. Okay, we'll put that aside so we don't get confused. Alrighty, our next ingredients are going to be our 3 tablespoons of honey, okay? So sometimes it's fun to get this out of here. We're going to use the same tablespoon. I'll hold it over, got my little bear, and I'm going to give it a good squeeze. Every time I've done this with students, they tell me how satisfying it is to squish out a whole bunch of honey. It just plops right on in there. Whee! All right, and 1 more. We'll make 3. All right, excellent. Okay, that's it for our honey, my friends. Okay, our next wet ingredient is going to be, actually I'm going to do my egg next, okay, because that's a little thick. The way that we crack an egg is not on the side of a bowl. It's actually how I was taught when I was younger. What we want to do is we want to crack it on a flat surface. If we crack it against a bowl on something that has an edge, it can push the shells up inside of it. You end up with a bunch of shells in your food. So we're going to crack it on the table. I made a little mess. That's okay. Cooking is messy. I did it again. I made a mess. Doesn't matter. Okay, going to put the eggshells in my compost pile. That's going to go in our garden. Alrighty, before I add the yogurt, I'm just going to go ahead and take this whisk. I'm going to whisk this up a little. I want to make sure I get this egg kind of nice and scrambly, kind of like you would have scrambled eggs. Okay, I want to make sure it's nice and mixed up. You see it's starting to turn a nice golden yellow color. That's from that egg yolk. Okay, once it is mixed to my liking, okay, we're going to move on to our yogurt. I have a little spoon to help me so I don't make even more of a mess. And I'm going to just spoon that right into my cup. Okay, we need a whole cup. And remember, when we're measuring, in order to measure correctly, it needs to be all the way to the top. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, scoop all that out with the rest of my wet ingredients. Thank you very much for your service, Mr. Yogurt. I'm going to put you to the side, get you out of our way. Okay, now we can go ahead and mix in our yogurt. It's going to look a little clumpy at first. That's okay. It'll end up mixing in quite nice. Because the yogurt is cold, it takes a little bit longer, but we want our yogurt cold. We want it to be in the fridge. We don't want to leave it out. But look how beautiful and creamy that is. I hope you guys can see that, okay? And that is going to be it for our wet ingredients. We will move on to our dry ingredients, okay? So our dry ingredients first call for a cup of our flour, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, scoop in here. Remember, we want to measure the top, so we take our finger or a spatula right across the top, nice and smooth. Dump her on in there. Alrighty. Next, we're going to do 1/2 teaspoon of salt. To have our salt in there, it's going to make it really nice. Okay. Very good. It's going to add a little bit of flavor to the batters, kind of balance out a little bit of sweetness. Okay. And then the last thing that we're going to do, I'll move these things to the side. before we mix the wet and the dry together, we're going to do our baking powder. Now remember, there is a difference between baking powder and baking soda. Okay, some things call for different ones, some call for both. This recipe calls for baking powder, and you cannot substitute one for the other, so just make sure baking powder is what you've got. So we're going to do a teaspoon of our baking powder. Again, you're going to level it off. Okay, I'll just use the end of this. Okay, because that especially you want to get correct, because if you have too much or too little baking powder, it's not going to come out quite right. So I'll go ahead and pour that in here too. Thank you, baking powder, for your service. And I'm just going to give that a little stir. Make sure all of our dry ingredients are mixed together. We already have all of our wet ingredients mixed together. Okay, now what I'm going to do is mix them both, okay? And you can either do wet into dry or dry into wet, it doesn't really matter. Okay, I'm gonna do dry into wet because this is a bigger bowl. Okay, so just kind of a little at a time. I'm gonna go ahead and start stirring it together. I say go ahead a lot, I know, but it's like a cooking thing. If you ever watched other cooking tutorials, they say that a lot. Okay, and a little bit more as we go. Alrighty. So you can see a batter is starting to form. We want to make sure we're getting everything off of the sides. And while we do want to get most of the lumps out, you do not have to get them all out. It's important not to over mix our pancakes or they're going to be a little bit chewy. And I prefer a fluffier pancake than a chewy pancake. So there's going to be a little lumpies. That's okay. It's not a problem. Okay, so now you can see this is starting to look like pancake batter. Okay, see how it kind of glops off? It's not runny, but it also doesn't start to form a ball like if you were making a dough. It's a little bit different. Now, this is the fun part. This is where your imagination can run wild, okay? You can put whatever you want in here. You can add some vanilla, okay? Some vanilla extract or some almond extract. You can put in all different kinds of fruit, apples, berries, bananas. Love bananas in my pancakes. You can also put in some nuts or some seeds. My favorite is banana walnut, very, very nice. And maybe if it's a weekend and you've been good all week, some chocolate chips. Okay, but once this batter is put together, it's a very, very simple plain batter. Once that's all together, that's when you can have a good time with it. That's when you can start to put in different things that you might find tasty. And that's what I always try and teach you, is that you do not have to always stick to exactly what the recipe says. As long as you have the basis for the whole thing, you can put in different things, take out other things that maybe you don't like. Like some people might want to put raisins in their pancakes. Is that a thing? I don't actually know. Some people might want to do it. I am not a fan, but I do love berries. So I'm going to do my blueberry pancakes, okay? So the recipe calls for 1/4 of a cup. That's not enough. I'm going to put in full 1/2 of a cup. You can do whatever you like. It's up to you. I like a lot of blueberries. I want to be able, when I take a bite, to have a bunch of blueberries in my pancakes. Okay, so now you're just going to kind of fold them in, do a little mixy to make sure that they're all in there. And that's pancake batter, guys. That's it. It's not too difficult to do. You can do it at home. And now we're going to move on to actually cooking the pancakes and how to do that in the pan and how simple and easy that is as well, okay? So come along. Okay, now it's time to actually cook our pancakes, and this is a lot of fun. It's a good way to start using the stove for the first time if you haven't before. Please make sure that a grown-up is with you if you are going to use the stove. I know I say it over and over, I'm a broken record, but it is very important to me that you are all safe. And so when you're using any kind of heat or fire, I want you to make sure you have a grown-up with you helping you. So what I have already done is I have turned this burner onto medium heat. Okay, we don't want it too hot because it'll burn, but if it's down too far, it'll take forever for them to cook. Okay, so we have medium heat. I've let this heat up a little bit. It's always good to let your pan heat up just a little bit before you use it. And we're going to use that second tablespoon of oil that was in our recipe. Okay, just a tablespoon. Kind of get it around a little bit. All right. Okay, you can also do this with butter, but this avocado oil is a little bit healthier. And it also stays good as it gets very, very hot. And some oils don't do that. Some oils kind of go bad whenever it gets very hot, but not this avocado oil. Okay, so now's the fun part. Okay, you can use a spoon, you can use different things in order to get your batter in. I like to use a ladle, kind of like how you would use for soups or stews, because it can get a nice big amount of our pancake batter in here. Now you can make however big you want. You can make giant pancakes or you can make little pancakes. I'm gonna do kind of a medium pancake. Okay, see all my blueberries in there? So happy with them. I'm just gonna put a little bit more in there too. And since my pan was hot, it's already starting to heat up. So what we're looking for, kind of flatten it out a little bit. What we're looking for, as this starts to cook, you're gonna see some little bubbles start to come out the top. That's what we want. That lets us know that it's cooking through the middle and that it's okay to flip it. So we're just gonna give it a couple minutes and we're gonna watch what happens. And medium heat, it looks like it's pretty good. It's sizzling pretty good. That's all that oil. We can move a little of that oil out of the way. I want you to be able to see what's going on here. You can see it already starts to bubble along the edges. The edges get done the fastest. You'll see that they're kind of browner before any other bit. Okay, it's actually might be a little too hot. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit because I see some browning happening. Okay, so what we're looking for is those bubbles that are going to come up on top. Sometimes it takes a couple minutes. That's fine. We can be patient. If you have a larger pan or if you're making smaller pancakes, you can do a few at a time. Some people have a griddle, which is basically a pan that goes all the way front and back of the stove. And that is really fun to be able to make a bunch of pancakes too. So if you want to do more than one at a time, that's the best way to do it. Okay, so I'm starting to see a few bubbles coming up over here. See how it's feeling. Okay. Check the bottom. Oh, this is looking beautiful, guys. I'm going to give it another minute just because I want to see some more bubbles. Oh, look, my blueberry's dancing. That's a dancing blueberry right there. Okay, here we go. We've got some bubbles. You can see the sides are getting done. Okay, so I'm going to take a spatula. Mine is big and long and fancy. Yours does not have to be big and long and fancy. Flip her on over. Now, I'm not one of those people that can use the pan to flip it. Just never got the hang of it. I end up dropping it or flipping it onto the ceiling. It's very embarrassing. Okay, so we have the other half starting to go. You can still see those blueberries in there. I cannot wait to eat this. This looks amazing. I like mine a little bit browner. Okay, you can see that there's some kind of crispy edges there. Some people don't, and that's fine. You don't have to leave it as long before you flip it. Just as long as you start to see those bubbles coming up. Okay, and at this point, when you've turned it over, since there's no more bubbles, you're just going to sometimes check with your spatula. You just go, what's going on under there? Nope, still needs a minute. Sometimes you just got to check and see what's going on with your food. Alright. So I'm going to say probably about another minute and then this pancake will be all finished. Okay, I'm going to check it again. All right, that is looking good, my friends. Flip it over and show you. Ooh, I lost a blueberry, but that's okay. All right, so we have a brown bottom. That's what we want. Again, you can leave it longer if you want it to be even more brown. Get that blueberry. I'm gonna save that for later. Let's put that back in my batter. You can't leave a man behind. All right, my friends, and that how you cook a pancake. And that's it, my friends. Easy peasy, we made a pancake. Obviously, you might want to eat more than one pancake. That's okay. Or you might want to share with your family, which is really the nicest thing to do. You can top this pretty much any way you like. Obviously, we're trying to not use too much sugar, and maple syrup is sugar, so is honey. But if you want to put a little bit, maybe a teaspoon of some maple syrup or some honey on top of your pancake, that would be lovely. But the sky's the limit, guys. You could top it with some peanut butter if you're not allergic, or some almond butter. I like to do that all the time. Sometimes I'll do a banana pancake with peanut butter and jelly. I know, it's crazy, but it's amazing. Okay, we have our blueberries cooked into our pancakes. They're gonna be all nice and warm and juicy. We could also add some more on top. Okay, why not? Blueberries are amazing for you. You almost can't eat too many blueberries. So they're definitely good to have around. But again, if you have another kind of berry that you want to use, some strawberries, some blackberries, raspberries, even another kind of fruit altogether, it's totally fine. I'm going to give this a try and see how we did. Okay, so I'm going to use just a little tiny bit of this maple syrup. Okay, and let's take a bite. I'm going to have an extra blueberry on there because I love me some blueberries. Let's see. That is good. It's nice and crispy on the outside and fluffy on the inside, just how I like it. Remember, I like it a little bit extra brown on top. So I really encourage you guys, if you weren't able to follow along, that's fine, but you can make these anytime. They're good for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And I hope you had a wonderful time watching. We'll have some more videos up for you so you can do some other cooking with us, and we'll talk about some more healthy, fun foods. And until then, chef's kiss.